Great program. We have a keynote later with Abdurrahman Shawi from Sedmo. We have a great panel moderated by Philip Kirakov from Startup Bootcamp, including CDC, including Innovation City, Stellenbosch University, and FMO. We have a great program, as I told you. We have pitches, 5 startups pitching later for the challenge HealthTech. And we have a panel, Women in Tech, and the pitch challenge, Women in Tech. Yeah. So this is the program for the afternoon. But first, we are starting now with, I don't have all my panelists. Nathaniel, he must be looking for them somewhere. So we're having, he was here, Ismaila Sek, yeah, he's here. Ismaila Sek from Lengo. We are waiting for Bilal Khalifa from Next AV. And we have already Isam from MedTN and moderated by Amel Saiden, CEO of BetaCube. And also she's the vice president now, right? Not anymore, nothing? Yeah, she wants to make money. She used to be the head of the Tunisian startup. It's the association of the ecosystem, or the startups of the ecosystem. And it's time for her to make money. That was just helping the ecosystem on her time, and it was already taking her too much time. And we're still taking your time now for this panel. Thank you, Amel. I'll leave it to you. We really have to start, but I promise we will get your third panelist.
Fantastic. Whenever they're ready, we'll start with already with 2 amazing panelists. I think everyone can't wait to hear what they want to tell us about the use of AI to scale up their own businesses. And I guess, yeah, every one of you has heard this morning and also on other events, because everyone is talking AI everywhere. So you know by now that AI is somehow changing our lives. And maybe we all knew all of a sudden last November with ChatGPT, we have our awareness raised all of a sudden of what generative AI can do. And we thought of this with an apocalyptic type of scenario at the very beginning. And now we're getting to understand what type of scenarios and how this is transforming our lives. But we all got to understand that it's there, it's happening. And then we started integrating this in our businesses and our lives. So the question that we're trying to figure out right now, so we're getting from a theory level and the scenarios level now into the reality type of level. How do our entrepreneurs today, how our startups today leverage AI to take their businesses to the next level? And I'm assuming, so my hypothesis here is that startups and entrepreneurs should be the ones who are one step ahead of any other type of business when it comes to leveraging AI to scale up their own businesses. So I'm very happy to welcome Isam and Ismaila now to start the panel and to tell us about their own businesses first. First, understand their businesses, how they're leveraged. Just telling you, so I was part of an assessment so it's Collège des Startups in Tunisia, giving labels to Startup Act labels. And I remember every second startup was claiming or saying that it's using AI or planning to use AI because it's first stage is accumulating data and second stage is using AI. So I can't wait to see all these startups leveraging and using AI, but now we start with the most ready startups to use AI. Maybe it's not only about generating images and pictures of pink elephants with dots, also with spots. So I hope it's going to be a bit more. So the first question to you, Isam, how are you using AI as a business to increment your productivity, operations, marketing, so to make sure that your business is operating better and faster? And by the way, tell us what you do.
Thank you so much. So my name is Isam. I'm the CEO, co-founder of MedTN. It's actually a medical network that connects doctors to patients. We started with a basic listing of doctors on our platform, and then we start getting questions from patients. They start sending us emails like, I have this problem, I have that problem, what should I do? As they see that it's a platform with the doctors. So we took those questions and we forwarded them to the doctors. The doctors start answering the question. We start publishing on our platform, and that's how we started. Today, it's a platform where doctors can, it's an influencer platform where doctors share content, articles, videos. And lately, with AI, we were pretty surprised when you saw like everybody else, and we decided to use the AI to scale the content part for the doctors. So the first thing, the doctors could create content using AI, assist them to create the content using AI that they are sharing on their social media, on Facebook and Instagram. It creates content like articles, videos. It creates even graphics that they could share. That's the first thing. And also, as we have like an EMR software that managed within the clinic, the AI helped the doctors create reports, automatic reports for the patient. It creates emails for the patient to assist them to follow up with their patient, to send them advices, specific advices based on the medical file of the patient. So it gives the more credibility for the doctor and more information for the patient, because the doctor, most of the time, they don't have time to follow up with their patient. So this tools helps them do the follow-up, do the advices, etc. The AI that we are using right now is also integrated for scanning all the lab tests, for example, through OCRs, that smart OCRs or AI assisted by OCRs. Those results are integrated to the file of the patient, gives a recommendation for the doctor to focus on something or not something else. And all this process helps the patient from choosing a doctor, from understanding their pathology, from getting to the right doctor, and also do the after consultation and do the following up with their patients.
Do you charge a markup or additional service, fees for the service, or do the customers take this for granted by now?
Actually, we charge the doctors to use those tools. So they have the EMR software that for managing the clinic, and also the appointment, so they could book an appointment with the doctor. Also, we have a telehealth consultation online that they are using, not in Tunisia, probably in Morocco, mostly in Morocco. So these are subscriptions that they pay to have all those tools, and they optimize based on the questionnaire that we sent to the doctor, optimize at least 5 hours a week into creation content or to creation of a report, etc.
Okay, cool. So it seems that this is an era of radical abundance everywhere of services and quality of services that are being offered to the user and to the client. Being aware that for example, that the distance between GPT-3 and 4 is almost 10x in terms of computing power and in terms of capabilities. Ismailia, how do you think AI is going to increment your own business, and how? So first, please tell us about your business. I know you have pitched earlier, and your pitch was apparently amazing. I'm sorry for having missed that. But tell us a little bit about the business, and then how is this really 10x? What is inhibiting us from reaching this 10x, knowing that the 10x in a year or so is going to be 100x, and so on and so forth?
Thank you very much for your introduction. So I am the CTO of Lengo, and our business model is basically we gather data from the market and display it on dashboards, and brands pay to see that data and act on it. Basically, we show them the market they are missing. For example, in an area, if there is 1,000 shops and their product can only be found in 500, we are able to tell them that, so that they can try to put their product in the 5 other 100 shops. So that's the plot of our company. And about the use of AI, I think we are talking a lot about large language models, ChatGPT, GPT-3, GPT-4, but like those are really large language models, and those are not necessarily needed in our daily lives as a startup. You can use it if you really need it, but I think it was said in previous talks, and I totally align with that. I used to hear and say that the first rule of AI, of using AI, is not using AI. if I can get away without using AI, if my problem can be solved with a simple Python code, why would I use AI? It's costly and all of that. So, but we leverage AI basically to scale. If with a team of 100 people, I'm only able to visit and process pictures of 1,000 shops, using AI, the same 100 people can now be able to visit and process, and mainly process the pictures and information coming from 10,000 shops now. Because with AI, what I used to do maybe in 1 hour, with the help of AI, I can do it in 5 minutes or 3 seconds. And I think that's the way to go about it. You have a problem, you are struggling with it, you are doing it manually. And then it's about automation. And as we said, it's not magical, but it has to be used to automate things, to go faster and to go bigger.
Allow me to dig a little bit deeper. So what kind of AI are you considering today? Is it like integrating existing tools in your own operations to make it more efficient? Because I see that your focus is about efficiency and reducing. It's more into automation for now. So what type of tools you're using if it's not large data models like GPT and so on?
So we are using computer vision models to, let's say, do some object detection or image classification. And we are not creating things from scratch. We used to say that we stand on the shoulder of giants. So if Google creates a model that is able to do image recognition very efficiently, why should I bother creating my model from scratch? I can just use that model, fine-tune it in my data, and then I have my model because the data is mine. And I can just use that model in-house and be very efficient about solving my tasks.
Cool. So, yeah, the mic is not the best idea to have just one mic, but sorry for that. So you are at the stage where you're using, let's say, the last generation of AI, which is about the data classification and identification and classification. So you're saying that if you don't have to, for the sake of developing or incrementing your business, to do generative AI today, don't do that. So it's really, you need to think from a business perspective, what do I need to do, and not just be dragged into this wave of I have to do a generative AI.
And I went to summer school and I was talking with a friend, and he told me sometime he feels like AI is a solution looking for a problem, and that's exactly what you're describing. We don't want AI to be a solution looking for a problem. AI should come and solve a problem we already have, and not the other way around. So it's not that we are not using last generation things. We are using them, but in a very efficient way. For example, we used a model from Facebook, SAM, segment anything model, and we used it in our very specific way, not necessarily as everyone would use it, because it's our use case. As I said, we still use what we need, what can be more efficient, whether it's the last generation or the previous one. But I will always go for the most efficient model. And it's about efficiency. It's about going fast and getting things done. Okay. Not necessarily using the hype of, we are using LLMs, we are using ChatGPT or something else. No. If I don't need that, I won't use it. It's on, if I need it, then I will use it. I think that's the way to go about it. And the other way for me is wrong, because it's just surfing on a wave and it won't last long.
All right. Okay, sounds that it makes sense. So it depends on the use case. But I think the use case of ISAM sounds to me like a very suitable use case for AI. Because yes, it's about efficiencies. It's about our business and business priorities. However, it's also about creating some edge, and that will allow us to raise the next round, to differentiate. Because the market has some expectations today, right? So how did you come up with with the statement or the decision that this is the way we're going? Was it like a wave that you're following, or this was a business imperative? So when did you feel this is the way we have to go?
Thank you, Emil. I think we have the problem. The problem is creating content, and obviously AI solved that. And that's 45 our traffic is coming from the content. And with AI, we could scale the number of piece of content that we have, and that was the simple decision to take. So it wasn't very complicated. It's right there. We have to use it, and we jumped on it, and we start using it. Now we are integrating into our EMRs, and that, of course, that increased actually our sales. The doctors are more interested into our solution because optimize the job within their clinic. So we see it as it's so obvious.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, and can you please dive deeper into how you did it? Is it like you're creating your own AI, or is it integrating with existing tools to go faster, since you're just trying to solve a specific problem that has already solutions like generating content?
Actually, we have more data scientists within our med.tn, and we're not going to reinvent the wheel. Actually, we just have to plug into something that's running, and that you could go faster. You don't waste your time, and we can recommend any startup to do that because we don't. It's right there, so you just have to use it. So probably there will be a better AIs in the future, but for now, it's doing the job, and we see in results today. We have much more content created, much more question answered on our platform. So yeah.
Okay, I think you can feel that everyone is trying to go faster, and that this panel is also about speed. Everyone is speaking fast and thinking fast. We have also a challenge that we're trying to meet. We are supposed to squeeze a 40 minutes panel into 20 minutes. So that's why you see quick answers, quick responses, and yeah, that's why we're moving also to another topic, which is about skills. So Ismaila, are you finding enough skills in the market to prepare for the next wave? I know you're more into operational efficiencies, but still data knowledge is required, capabilities are required. Do we have a skill scarcity or skill challenge on the continent? And if so, what do you think, how can we bridge this gap?
So I think we have like very talented people like on the continent. We also have like others that left because maybe they had a better salary or better conditions somewhere else. But I think instead of maybe dwelling about we don't have enough trained people, we could try to train people ourselves. We could try to upskill them. And like we are doing that. Like I'm personally doing that as a member of Galsen AI. I am like running training sessions where I come, and it's the NVIDIA program, and thankfully, like we are thankful to NVIDIA, where I come and I train people, and we are using GPUs from NVIDIA, and at the end they have an exam to pass, and if they pass it, they are certified. And I think that's the way to go about it. We can just be complaining about, yeah, the best went to Canada or USA, train other ones. Like train them and try to keep them, try to give them like the best condition that will make them stay instead of leaving, because if they can have something similar or better than what they are going to look for in US or in Canada, they wouldn't bother being there, they will stay.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I love the attitude, positive attitude, let's build and not complain. Amazing. So maybe another thought or idea. So maybe everyone has heard already that AI, that as we know it today, will be incremented by 100 times or 1,000 times in 3 years from now, that AI will be able to build products on its own. So it's not only about generate some content. It's going to be whatever chat, whatever create a product, negotiate with partners, sell it. Just do the thing. So How do you see the future of entrepreneurs and of founders with that perspective? Are we going to be just the idea generators? Can the AI probably even generate ideas in that sense? Are we going to be made redundant as an ecosystem and founders?
Actually, we're talking about today. Today, you could go much faster with AI, and even though you don't have the skills for something, you could learn about it and you could do it right away. Like if you could use it into marketing. People are using it into marketing to communicate with their customers, to increase sales, etc. So it's right here. So it's happening. So probably in the future it will be much more advanced, much more. We could even create. You could create a product, but behind that you need to have like an entrepreneur. At least we're not gonna create entrepreneurs and people, but that will help the entrepreneurs, the startups to build something much stronger and much faster, especially.
I can't agree more. I think we'll be creative enough to find things that are more interesting to do. And I mean, the invention of cars didn't make people redundant. Invention of electricity, I don't know. It's like internet is just opening new possibilities, and AI even more. Ismaila, what do you think?
Yeah, I think humans will always find a way. We'll always find a way. We always did, and we will keep doing that, because we had like industrial revolution. People were complaining that machines are taking people's job, and then other kind of job were like created. And I think it will be the same. Maybe we won't have. We will maybe replace some jobs, but some other will be in. And it was mentioned before, we will have to train and upskill people, because those that are affected by like AI taking their job are not usually the one benefiting from AI. So maybe we have to plan for them, but I think in the future, nobody will be trained for a job that no longer exists. So that won't be a problem.
Yeah, maybe imagining I'm an entrepreneur today and I'm planning to work on a new idea. So what do you recommend with your perspective now as a successful entrepreneur? So shall I go directly into some AI type of startup right from the beginning and catch this wave, knowing that I can compete internationally, since everyone is coming, the topic is new to everyone anyways. So, and then most VCs and investors are just so fond of this topic. Or shall I just go the classical way of finding an interesting problem to solve?
Actually, I saw a number probably last week. I think there's 2,000 new startup in AI every day, or I saw that. That's hilarious. So I don't know. Probably people, like I said, Smile. We're not reinventing something, but you could use the AI to leverage your business, to leverage whatever you're doing. So that's what matters. Yeah.
I totally agree. Can't agree more. One closing word from Ismaila.
Yeah, I think keep trying things, keep trying them faster, and if you have to do 11 iterations to find the right solution, the speed at which you do the first 10 will determine how fast you arrive at the solution. And I think that's my closing word. Iterate fast.
Amazing. Iterate fast is all about the speed, and amazing that we are having this conversation in the first place to be aware of what's going on and all the opportunities that are offered to us with AI, but also the challenges, the competition happening globally using AI or leveraging AI. So thank you, everyone. However, so I know we have the pressure of time, but can we take one question?
Yeah, one question, sure. One question? No pressure. One question.
No questions? So you have, we have one. Do you need the mic? Oh, you have one.
Oh, hi, my name is Edwin Situan, co-founder of Snack Health. I'll be pitching shortly, so I'll share with you what we're building. This is for Isam. So what can we incentivize doctors to help us create this content? Because sometimes they're busy, and then, you know, writing that little report, they might miss out on that. So how do we encourage them, you know, we need this?
Actually, it's pretty simple. Creating content, create more traffic, create more readers, and converts for the doctors. That's as simple as that. We offer the doctor statistics, like this piece of content created that much traffic that converted into an appointment or a call or whatever. So at the end, we see a piece of content that was read over 50,000 times, and that converts a lot of patients for them. So if they talk about topic, so I find a doctor that is talking about topic that is close to me, I could book with him, I could visit him, and that converts, that's cash for them.
Thank you.
Amazing. We did well, right? 20 minutes.
Thank you, Amal Zaidan. 20 minutes, contract respected. We're trying to get back some time to use it for the party tonight, so, since we are running late. Now it's Sedmo, and it's Abdurrahman Shawi, the superstar. Why are you wearing a jacket? Is it part of the show? Perfect. Yes, we're starting the keynote. Please stay with us. We're starting with Abdurrahman Shawi. Sedbo, the floor is yours. I'm very happy to have you on stage. Rock the stage, man.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here. And before I start, I just want to thank AfricArena, Christophe, Nathanael, Dan, and all the team for putting this event together and having me with you. So I was asked to talk about the challenges and perspectives of deep tech ecosystems in Africa. And before I do that, I just want to tell you just shortly, very briefly about me. So I'm a researcher / consultant who just achieved a 1.5 year exploration of 13 ecosystems in Africa. My objective through some demo was to lead like ground investigations and to try to talk with all the stakeholders that are involved in the ecosystem, try to understand the different mechanisms that we can put in place to accelerate or foster that innovation or startup ecosystems, and another focus that were much more specific on the business models for startup support organizations as well. And so the first phase of some demo that was about data collection and insight gathering is now achieved. And I'm starting the second phase of this project, which is to disseminate this knowledge and make it impactful and try to distribute it to decision makers. And that's why I'm very happy to be here and grateful for the opportunity. Yeah, so basically, as I said, I had the chance to talk to a lot of investors, corporates, founders, SSOs, and government institutions. Some of them are here in the room, and I just want to thank everyone for their contribution. So what I'm going to show you today is more some observations and insight that I gathered from these guys. And before I started to talk about the very specific ecosystems in Africa, I felt important to do just a little bit of theory here. And to show you this framework that was designed by the MIT. So I had the chance to work a bit with MIT this year and to get acquainted with some of their frameworks. And I think that this one is particularly interesting to understand our topic better, in the sense that this distinction that it allows between innovation capacity and entrepreneurship capacity can be very insightful as well for investors or for ecosystem builders who are looking at assessing or evaluating their own markets or other markets that they are interested in. And basically, the innovation capacity would be the capacity for a place, geography, to be able to bring new to the world ideas, new to the world solutions that are science-based or the result of a specific R&D process. So something that is really new and that really solves like real-life problems. Whereas the entrepreneurship capacity will be more like the subset of inputs that would allow or facilitate the forming of enterprises and their growth. And so it's interesting, this distinction is interesting because when you look at the African ecosystems, and especially the large ones, so the ones that attract the most funding, and especially Nigeria, Kenya, or Egypt, for instance, you realize, and when you look at the startups that are managing to raise funds, you realize that these companies are mostly traditional businesses who are digitizing a part of the value chain that is more or less big, or more or less the whole value chain. And these businesses, they manage to raise money because they are in a business environment that is suitable for them to grow, and also because you have in these countries strong entrepreneurship capacity. So that makes them investable. Whereas in smaller ecosystems, this entrepreneurship capacity is much more limited, but in the case of Tunisia, for example, you will see that this country has a tremendous amount of true innovation-driven enterprises. You've seen some of them in the pitches before. I'm thinking of Cumulus, for example. And these companies that are innovation-driven, the thing that is very interesting and that I want you guys to understand is that the solution that they bring is often a solution to the world. And so their market is not limited to the frontiers of Tunisia or to the frontiers of the country where they had been built, but it's a world scale. And that's interesting to understand because when looking at investment opportunities or when looking at assessing different markets, it's interesting to get this distinction and try to focus on the innovation capacity of a small industry or small market to try to see how interesting it can be from an investment point of view. And a second layer of theory, and then I'm done with that, is the 5 stakeholders model that was also originated by MIT. And what it says basically that through their observations of different innovation ecosystems around the world, and it mostly happened in very structured and mature economies, you have these 5 stakeholders that are absolutely required in order to ignite or foster or accelerate the ecosystems. And they all have very specific roles. Like, for example, the government would be responsible for the IP policies, for the regulatory frameworks, and for setting up all the institutional foundations that will allow the market to thrive. The entrepreneurs will be responsible for actually doing things and becoming as well maybe role models for the next generations. Risk capital is important to fund research and fund ventures. And the corporates are also very important in the sense that they bring in some very specific expertise. They can bring in some real-life applications to drive the research. And also they can be funding partners, but also they can help ventures to access to specific markets. These 5 stakeholders are very important, and especially the university one that I left to the last, especially when you are talking about deep tech ecosystems, universities are critical because they are the first to come in the value chain of building this deep tech ecosystem. Basically, we need human capital to do that. If I can humbly add something to the MIT 5 stakeholders framework and maybe make it more adapted to what I've seen in the African continent, is to add one specific stakeholder, which are the SSOs. They are also referred to as tech hubs. Their impact is tremendous in the continent. Their number is growing every year. And the thing is, like, why do I feel it's important to add it on top of the MIT stakeholders framework is because in more structured economies, SSOs are often associated with one of the 5 stakeholders. So they are often associated with universities, with corporates, with VCs, or with government institutions. And that is important because it brings a clear mission to them. It brings a clear thesis, like support thesis. What do I do, for whom, and how? It brings as well some resources and more stability for them to engage in more risky ventures and ventures that take time like DeepTech. In Africa, the problem is that the majority of them is not associated with with one of the 5 stakeholders. They are mostly independent structures. I like to call them ecosystem gap fillers, because they often take on one of the roles that are left vacant by the stakeholders that are not here. So they can engage in business education, which is normally provided by universities. They can engage in ecosystem building. AfricArena is a perfect example of that. So they always have very different activities, and these activities, but also their positioning, evolve along with the development of the ecosystem. So they are here, they are an evolving organisms that adapt to what exists on the ground and fill the gaps. And the problem that it makes is that they have very different, as I said, activities that are not very structured, and as a result, they are often, they have a model that fragilizes the whole model, because they have they are always under financial perfusion, and they always have to build quick programs that are adapted to the different needs of their various funding partners. And that creates some instability that makes them unable, unfortunately, in most of the cases, to address deep tech ventures with the time requirement, with the expertise requirement, and the resource requirements that deep tech impose. So as we start to see it and to understand it, deep tech requires human capital. It's very important, and universities, as I said on the slide before, have to play a key role in that, in igniting the dynamic and igniting the ecosystem. And when we look at what's happening in Africa, we can distinguish 2 large groups that imply 2 distinct strategies. The first group of countries are the ones who need to invest heavily in their education system. That takes time. It requires a lot of fund, a lot of efforts, but we are already seeing some initiatives and some local universities that are stepping up. I can mention AIMS, for example, whose representatives were here yesterday. I don't know if they're here today. Carnegie Mellon University is a bunch of them. In South Africa, you have great university as well, in Tunisia, and there is a dynamic that is going on, and I want to thank, I don't know if people from the MasterCard Foundation are here, but they are doing a tremendous job in funding research institutions and universities and allowing them to build the human capital that is required in these smaller economies. And the second group of countries, which already have solid foundations for human capacity building, and this group is perfectly exemplified by Tunisia, where you can see that 15% of the startups that are labeled are focused on deep tech. This group that has the foundation for developing human capital in science and STEM education, what they need is 2 things. The first one is to bring on more entrepreneurial capacity. And so that means that we need to be able to bring to these scientists the entrepreneur mindset and the entrepreneur skill set that will allow them to translate their innovation into a successful venture and have it grow. And the second aspect that is much needed in these countries is to learn how to retain these talents. So that's something that has been said before in the panel, but the Africa's most valuable resource is constantly being drained away to follow outside opportunities outside, and that's something that we need to try to fight by not only offering to the scientists and this population all the opportunities that they need to remain and to pursue their research, to pursue their postdoc, and to find opportunities not only to do the research, but to do it in the proper conditions that are offered elsewhere. So we really need to think collectively of how we can involve corporations, how we can involve government, how we can involve research centers and universities, and work together and think together in how we can build this proper environment that will help retain the scientists. And the second point, I think, that can be Oh, there is a problem in the presentation, but okay. The second point that can be important as well is to have local champions. So, for example, in Tunisia, it's very promising that InstaDeep has managed to scale and partner with a large corporate, because this kind of local champions, while they are here, they manage to nurture a local expertise, and they become the warrant of this expertise, and they bring in more talents. So the end game here is for small economies to aim for a kind of infinite value loop where world-class ideas and world-class science and research will help bring in corporates and will help bring in more universities, which in turn will help bring in more resources, a more suitable environment, and that will bring more talents, and so on and so forth. On another scale, we see that the same phenomenon that is unfortunately happening with the most interesting startups that are flourishing in the continent. The same thing happened in France a few years ago with the best startups that were always leaving to settle in the US, and it's a kind of normal thing. But the difference here is that, for example, if you take Tunisia, that figure hit me when I saw it. Last year, in 2022, Tunisia was the second provider of capital to the region of South in France, behind the US and just before the UK. That was not the case France was not, when France was exporting its startups to the US, it was not in the same economic conditions, and unfortunately we can easily understand that this is some capital that could have been maybe more useful if it remained in Tunisia. Just a quick quote here from a great teacher from Polytechnique in Algiers, who I talked to, who is also the founder of a DeepTech company called HealthTech. And so these guys, what he told me is that in his department at National Polytechnique, unfortunately, he has like 85 to 90% of the students or the graduates who leave the country 2 months or 3 months after graduation. Within his company, with his deep tech company, HealthTech, he manages to get some interns or to get some key people to work for 6 months, maybe 8 months or 9 months, but that's just the time for them to find better opportunities outside. And of course, this talent is now competing in a globalized labor market, which makes things much complicated for deep tech companies on the continent. And finally, I wanted to talk about a last asset that is much needed as much as the human capital. It's the infrastructure. And what we can see is that across the continent, the critical infrastructure that is needed to support deep tech and to support science-based innovation is unfortunately missing. When we talk about biotechnology, when we talk about computing power, when we talk about space technology and access to infrastructure becomes very, very limited. And that's the basis, for us to be able to build upon. And one important thing here is not to consider it as only something that needs to be imported or just brought and plugged in. I really believe that we need to take this with a lot of care. And there is one concept that seems very important to me, which is tech diplomacy. We need to learn, and that's what the Asian countries have managed to do brilliantly in the last 20 years. We need to learn how to negotiate with large technology providers and be able to ensure that not only do we transfer the technology, but we also ensure to transfer the know-how and the expertise that comes with it. This is absolutely mandatory, and we absolutely need it. When we see, it's a question, it's also a matter of sovereignty, it's also a matter of independence, and all these ethical questions that surround the use of technology infrastructure are very critical, and I think that they are mostly overlooked by our government so far. When you look at the rigidity that the US has against Huawei or against other Chinese or foreign technology providers to settle in the US, you can understand that it's a very important question. And unfortunately, like you can see a lot of statistics that I don't have in mind now, but about how is Africa being connected to the internet or to the 4G, 3G networks. This is very critical infrastructure for the sovereignty and the independence of the countries, and we are just not considering this question at all. So that's very important to have in mind. And yeah, well, that's, just said that. And as a result of all this, maybe human capital that is not evenly spread across the country, and innovation capacity that is not evenly spread across the continent, some entrepreneurial capacities that are very different with large markets, small markets. All this results, unfortunately, in a lack of innovation-driven enterprises in the continent. But I want to finish on a positive note because we still see it. We still see it, and as long as we see very innovative startups as the ones who came today to pitch, as Cumulus Water or the hydrogen company, it's the evidence and the proof that the continent has the talent and the capacity to continue to build that. And I mean, this discussion was, it was for me impossible to think of having this discussion just 5 years ago, and now we're having it, and just by seeing in the last week, in the last few days, all these brilliant minds representing different stakeholders dedicated to work together and to foster, to answer these challenges that are unfortunately here, but to bring solutions to that, I think is very reassuring. It gives a strong feeling of engagement and commitment, and is very motivating. So I just wanted to finish on this and say thank you once again to AfricArena for putting together this kind of events. Thank you as well to Open Startup and Brain for the event that happened just 2 days ago, and that was as well dedicated for this. On the last note, I just want to say that this is an extract from a report that I have been working on that I will provide for free to any stakeholder or people in the ecosystem that can be interested in the insight that I have gathered. I just have a small bug with my website right now that I need to fix to be able to publish it. If anyone knows how to code, please come see me after that. But yeah, I just want to say that the report will be given for free, and if you're interested, please don't hesitate to come and see me. I'll be happy to chat. Thank you. If anybody has questions, now can be the time, or later. I don't know if you are in a rush, Wasim.
Are there questions for Mr. Shawi? This is always a good sign. That means it's clear. Yes.
Thanks for your presentation. Maybe just a little bit more about your trip and research and insights that we'll probably get from the report, but like, what was the most surprising thing? Probably hard to distill, but what was the most surprising thing or ecosystem that you encountered through the 13 countries?
It's always complicated to answer these kind of questions because I have like a ton of things that come to my mind. But I think that the first learning and the most important learning that I had during this trip, and I only visited 13 countries out of 54, is that we tend to talk about, I mean, the narratives are very important, they are critical, and we tend to talk about Africa as a whole, whereas the one learning that I had is that there is no country that exactly looks like the other. There is no single mechanism that you can put in Tunisia and reproduce in North Africa because you consider that the region is one single region that shares a lot of culture, similar culture and stuff like that. It just does not work. And in every country, like, well, maybe one takeaway would be that ecosystems today are very shaped by the history, by the last decades of history that happened in the country. It's all the political and economic choices that have been put together that will shape the role and the level of involvement of each stakeholder in its ecosystem that will shape the whole business environment in which the ventures will evolve, and also it will influence a lot some very personal, from a very personal perspective, like how people define success, what's the true aspirations of people when it comes to work, what's their relationship with time, and I mean all these philosophical conceptions are very, very important to consider. Because the incentives that you will put in place will never have the same impact depending on all this. So please, we need to have a very granular view of each ecosystem and stop considering subset of country based on the language, based on the culture, or based on any other metric that does not really make sense when it comes to analyzing an ecosystem. If there is no more question, I assume that it was clear enough. And please, again, I will be here today and tomorrow, so don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Abdelrahman Shawi. And tonight you're coming to the party tonight, right? 7 p.m.
I've been here for 5 days and I still didn't visit my family. If I don't go tonight, they will kill me. But I will be here for at least an hour, yeah.
Yes, they can meet you there. Thank you. Thank you. Abdelrahman, this party is for you guys. It's for the VC and the startups, and it's called Innovation Night. It's starting at 7 in Sidi Bou Said, Hotel Sidi Bou Said. Great, unique view on whole Tunis. So now we're moving on with our next panel, and I think they thought we were running out of time, but thanks to Abdelrahman and thanks to Amal Saidan and her panelists, we're like just half the time we were losing. So I'm gonna call my panelists. I'm gonna call Robert Heine. I saw him. Yes, Robert Heine from FMO. If you haven't met this guy yet, picture him and harass him gently. He can do a lot for the ecosystems in Africa. He's very involved. Also, Dr. Fumlani. I think he's outside. I'll go get him. Dr. Fumlani from Stellenbosch University. We have also Marwan Rira from Innovation City. And Marwa, are you there? I know that Shaima is here from CDC, Caisse Dépôt et Conciliation. We are proud to have you, Shaima, great, excellent, unique player in the Tunisian ecosystem. And Philip Kirakov, please join us on stage. Just a second. And they are here, superstars. Everyone's talking to them in front of the room. Philip Kirakov and Dr. Fumlani. Please join us in the panel, please. We're starting right now. Dr. Fumlani, please. And you want the golden mic or the blue?
Fantastic. Okay. Well, we are an accelerator. I was just informed that our 30-minute panel is going to be achieved in 20 minutes. So that's true to form. But welcome, everyone. I'm Philip Kirchhoff, CEO and co-founder of Startup Bootcamp AfricTech. We scout, skill, and scale the most disruptive African startups. And we are a Pan-African program originally out of Cape Town. We now have a campus in Dakar. And since 2017, we've accelerated 60 African startups. So the panel today is really talking about ecosystem development. And just in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of jump down the line. But we will we'll have everyone introduce themselves for 1 minute or less. And then we're going to jump into some rapid-fire questions to make sure that you have the opportunity to talk about how do we grow this ecosystem in Tunisia, but really a Pan-African ecosystem. So, to my right.
Should I introduce myself
Please.
first?
One minute.
Okay. I'm Shaima Soudani, Investment Manager at Caisse des Dépôts et Consignation, and I'm part of the team that manages the World Bank project, Innovative Startup and SMEs, which is a 75 fully funded World Bank project.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel. My name is Marwa, Program Manager at Innovation City. I manage the startup accelerator called AI Factory, which is an AI-focused startup accelerator. As part of what I do is basically I have a 360 degrees aspects of the different program operations. I also intervene in startup support from the initial assessment phase all the way to the all the way through the acceleration journey. So I get to see the impact our program has not only on the startup but also on the founders, which is very motivating for me. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm excited to be here because it's my first time in Tunis. My name is Pumlani and I'm from South Africa. I am a director of a new center at Stellenbosch University called Allen Gray Center for Africa Entrepreneurship, and an executive at an accelerator called Jasiri, which is focused in producing high-impact entrepreneurs in Kenya, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. Thank you.
And hi, everyone. Also excited to be here as it's my first time in Tunisia. Hi, Robert Haney with FMO, and I'm on the programmatic technical assistance side of FMO, which is the group that handles projects focused on upstream kind of ecosystem development. And I am here really under the Ventures program, which is a fund within FMO, and it's really the consolidation of our VC-focused work. And I lead the ecosystem building component of that program. So I have a couple other key projects, but I'll leave it there for now.
So I think just because you've already got the mic, we'll start with your end. And Rob, maybe just picking up on what you're saying about the ecosystem play and wearing all these different hats. But FMO obviously is a very large organization, and you support many things. You sponsor AfricArena. Maybe highlight a little bit more about your emphasis and how you are working with ESOs and what role you see those organizations playing in growing the ecosystem, and in where's FMO, how do you fit into that whole picture?
Yeah, sure, and a little more context on FMO and the Ventures program, as I mentioned, because this is relatively new. We started this about 3 years ago, which is really the formalization of our work in the earlier stage investing space. So it has a 200 million euro investment arm, and then running alongside of that is a technical assistance facility. And I lead that ecosystem building component of that technical assistance facility. And so this kind of work within ecosystem development is still new to us, and we're on a learning journey. And so we've been trying to kind of experiment with how to do that. And there's many different ways, but our approach being a relatively small funded program, we're not trying to start something new per se or set up operations in any one country. So it's really about working through partners, through ESOs, entrepreneur support organizations, to really help in developing that pipeline for, yes, perhaps us as we look at what are these potential investment opportunities, but for the broader community, and how do we help crowd in more attention and more investors to these underserved markets. And so, yeah, I think one of our key approaches was, let's look, just starting in Africa, which is where our technical assistance facility focuses because of where the money comes from. But looking at Africa, how do we go beyond the big four markets and look at the middle tier markets to help in trying to be more catalytic in these markets? And so we've started to prioritize a few and are now starting to work with some local partners. But it's around this theme of supporting local ESOs and accelerators and connecting them with the kind of follow-on investment and resources needed to help ventures scale from those locations, while at the same time working with more established and regional accelerators and helping them expand into these markets perhaps faster than they could do on their own. And that brings us to how we have partnered with Startup Bootcamp and Philip and his team on what they're doing out of Senegal now. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it there.
Which we very much appreciate, of course. I don't want to take any of the time, but yeah, it's been fantastic working, and I will dive into that a bit more. Maybe to Phumlani, Dr. Phumlani. You mentioned something earlier to me about just an interesting data point about your research and where Tunisia stacks up on the continent. Maybe that would be, I'd love that as a lead-in point that might actually surprise, maybe we could almost do it as a poll, you know, but see what people's perspective is in terms of Tunisia and the AI-backed and the AI space.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned the big four markets, which are well known. We call it in the research community the innovation quadruple, which is Kenya, Egypt, South Africa, and Nigeria. And what we saw last year for the first time was kind of a slight dethroning, this concept of a top six for the first time. And that's because of what happened here with InstaDeep. Of course, the InstaDeep exit was huge, but of course Tunisia will produce more in the future. But what is interesting about Tunisia is this notion of sub-ecosystems. So when we talk about ecosystems in Africa, we almost bundle them into one concept, much like how people think of Africa. But really, how entrepreneurship will grow in Africa is through sub-ecosystems. And Tunisia's sub-ecosystem is DeepTech. And interestingly, if you take 100 firms, in 3-4 years' time, you'll be lucky to have 10, and 7 years later, you'll be lucky to exit one business. And that is just generic. And DeepTech is a very niche within that, very niche at the end. So interestingly, in the continent, only 5% of startups are built on DeepTech. That's a continental average. And Tunisia's portfolio is 3 times that average. That is an amazing statistic and an amazing testament to how data and how the engineering and how the tech, the deep tech here in Tunisia is really leading the continent. And that has a lot of fringe benefits, because if people trust you with one sub-ecosystem, they'll then trust you with others. So this is really a very big privilege for me to be here.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I mean, like I said, I was astonished. I mean, of course, we all know InstaDeep, but it's fascinating to think about. It's not that one outlier company that did it. You're saying it's 15% of all the investment. So actually to you then, because you run an accelerator or you run a set of programs basically bringing up the next generation of future InstaDeeps. So maybe tell us a little bit more about what's the secret? How are you achieving that? How are you helping to get to that 15%?
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you, Phumlani, for the statistics. That's very positive. So since you mentioned InstaDeep, with the AI Factory program, we are lucky enough to be working with InstaDeep. They are providing us with their mentorship, not us directly, but for the startups, for the AI startups, and that's very important for early stage AI startups. So how about we start by talking about what do early stage AI startups need in Tunisia? So in the AI Factory program, we have run the first cohort so far. We have a second cohort. In the first cohort, we had 18 AI startups that joined the program initially, but we've selected only 6 startups that received the acceleration. And so with these startups, every startup has its unique goals and its unique startup needs. But generally speaking, these startups at the early stage, sometimes they come with their MVP, sometimes they come with their prototype, but it's not always the case. And so with our AI experts, we really try to help them validate their AI solutions. Even if they come with their MVP, we really try to help them achieve their product market fit. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, which is really important, as soon as they enter our program, what we do is that we try to make business and technical assessment for the startup, not just for eliminatory reasons, but also to assess the maturity of startups and work around a roadmap together. That's very useful for the next stage, which is the acceleration stage. So the assessment is very important. It allows us to really understand the maturity and also match the startup with the right mentors and experts. Some startups, for example, they are expanding, so they need coaching or mentorship in agile management. Some other startups that are trying to validate their product, so they need coaching or how do I say this, expertise in UX, UI, so that's very important. So yeah, in the first cohort, we did assessment in terms of product, which is super important for an early stage startup. We also help entrepreneurs really unlock their potential in terms of pitching, which is super important. During the acceleration phase, we don't just focus on pitching in general, but really prepare the startup for investment readiness. So we provide them with investment readiness training to help the startup really, how do I say this, perfect their investor pitch. Because early stage startups, usually they're bootstrapping, they haven't raised funds yet. So to raise seed level fundraising, they need to be able to know which documents, which financial documents need to have in place, documentation, investor pitch, their go strategy needs to be clear. So what I'm trying to say for early stage AI startups, exposure is really important. We help them not only connect them with local network, but also on an international level. Some of our startups, they took part in international events like GITEX, Africa, where they got to meet, in Morocco, where they got to meet other AI startups. This really helped them not only meet potential investors or prospects, but also meet other AI startups in their fields to help them do a benchmark. So that's a really important thing.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, it's an amazing program, and I think it's a perfect lead-in because, of course, all this pitching, what does the startups ultimately want? They want to raise capital. So let's talk about the money. And now you mostly don't invest directly. It's mostly through investments into funds. So perhaps share a bit about your strategy for growing the venture ecosystem and the venture capital layer in Tunisia.
Okay, thank you. Actually, CDC started investing in VCs, I think, since 2015 with the 2 VC funds. And for these VC funds, actually, CDC invested indirectly. But with the creation of Anava Fund of Fund, and actually we are one of the LPs of Anava Fund of Fund, we are no more dealing with VC funds directly, so it's through Anava that VC funds are created and VC investments are offered to the local actors in Tunisia. Just to tell you that we are supporting startups and startups ecosystem through different instruments. For instance, with the World Bank project, which is a program of 70